could be said that the sort of car a nation makes reflect on the nation as a whole. For example, the Italians make the very flamboyant and expensive Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Zondas. The Germans make the incredibly precisely engineered Porsches and Audis, while the Swedes make the very safe Volvos and what used to be Saabs, although they do occasionally go mental and make the odd Koenigsegg. The Dodge Viper here doesn't really do corners very well, will drink absurd amounts of petrol, and isn't exactly what you'd call sophisticated, but it's still incredibly fun to drive. So I'll leave you to come to your own conclusions on America. And this is the 2013 version. It's instantly recognisable as a Viper. It has the traditionally huge bonnet to hide a ridiculous engine, like all previous Vipers has done. It has side exit exhausts, and it even has two bubbles in the roof to allow extra headroom for those wearing helmets. Under the bonnet, and everything is pretty much what you would expect. There is an 8.4 litre V10 producing 640 horsepower, the most powerful Viper made to date. And the only thing I really dislike about this car so far is the silly cross bracing around the engine. I believe it's designed to make it look like the sort of Viper race cars. However, on this road car it kind of looks a bit silly and tacky. It's in here though where things start to break from tradition. While not exactly Mercedes or BMW levels of luxury, it certainly is a big improvement over the older generation Vipers. It has its own fancy media centre and digital display, the sort of thing you see on a Nissan GTR, not normally common with an American muscle car. And a big glowing red snake in the middle of the rev counter when you need to change up is a nice touch. But how is it to drive? Well, much of the same if I'm honest. It is important to remember that this isn't going to be a rival for the ACR Viper. This car weighs in at over £3,000 after all. The brakes do struggle, and it's very easy to get caught out and outbrake yourself. And there is also a surprisingly large amount of understeer as well when trying to turn into a corner. Then, of course, on the exit from a corner, just a tiny bit too much throttle, and there is lots and lots of oversteer. Although when this car does go into production, they will be fitting driver aids such as traction control to make this car less dangerous and more accessible for everyone. Although for the purpose of this review I've turned all that sort of stuff off. The engine certainly delivers plenty of performance. A 0 to 60 time of 3.6 seconds and a top speed of over 200 miles an hour. Figures that land it firmly in Ferrari and Lamborghini territory. And the price is also impressive at only 95,000 credits. Might not be a serious contender for the likes of a 458 Italia, but it certainly is an interesting alternative. With its modern interior and driving aids means most people can get a lot of performance out of this car in relative comfort and without fearing for their lives. But at the flick of a button it can still be a tyre shredding lunatic that we all know and love. Of course, we couldn't just leave it there, so now it's time for our tame racing driver to see what sort of lap time he can get out of this car. Off the start line, and there is, well, the sort of typical amount of wheel spin you would expect from a big American muscle car, but on the straight this is where the Viper will tend to do fairly well. Heavy under the brakes into the first corner, there's a bit of sort of wiggling about, but he managed to keep it all nicely under control. Not too much understeer, a little bit of sliding on the exit, but not more than you would expect. Coming up to Chicago, again heavy on the brakes, is still not doing too badly. There's no leery oversteer moments as such. Now, coming up to the hammerhead, while he can use all of his 640 horsepower down here, he's going to struggle to get it stopped in time. As you can see, it's squirming all over the place. But Stig managed to keep it all under control. Not too much understeer either. On the exit, there's quite a bit of sliding, but still, it's all kept within the lines and not been on the grass yet. Now, make the most of the power while you can, because this car is going to struggle through this part. It's very big, very heavy, not a huge amount of downforce. As you can see, Stig kind of using all of the track and a little bit more in places. And coming up to the second to last corner now, very tricky corner. No squirrel under braking this time, which is a surprise. Gets it turned in nicely. There's no understeer or oversteer. And again, fairly neutral around the last corner, which is a surprise, and across the line. So, the 2013 STR Viper did a lap time of 1 minute 15.8, which really isn't that bad. It puts it up there with the Roth RGT8 and the Pagani Zonda, which, when you consider how heavy this car is and how much it struggles to get turned into some of the higher speed corners, it really isn't bad. It's only a couple of seconds down on the ACR Viper. So that's it, folks. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.